And welcome to the Life program at the Sci-Fair Library. My name is Rachel Hugenberg. I'm one of the reference librarians here. And I know that during this past year, at least for me, stress and anxiety have been a little bit higher than normal with the current circumstances. So this morning, our presenter, Katie Denham, who is a counselor, has joined us to give us some tips and tricks to help manage that stress and anxiety. Keep in mind, please, that any questions you can put in the chat. You can also chat to me privately if you have questions, and I can ask them for you if that's how you're most comfortable. Katie, if you would please take it away.
Sure. Well, let me just put up my presentation, and I'm going to do that. Perfect. There we go. All right, so like Rachel said, my name is Katie Denham. I am a counselor. I have my master's of counseling, and I have been working with students, young adults, for several years on coping mechanisms and strategies to help combat stress and anxiety, whether that's in the classroom, professionally, personally. And this is something I'm very, very passionate about. I am one of those people that believes that if you have a problem or you have something that's happening, the best way to combat it is with a plan. So this is our agenda today. We're going to first go over just a little bit of an overview of stress and anxiety and how these affect us. Like, what is the symptomology of that? How does our body react to stress and anxiety? And what's the difference? Then we're going to talk a little bit about our triggers. So why does stress and anxiety happen to us, and what specifically happens in our own lives that really causes stress and anxiety? Then we're going to get to the meat of the bones, which is our coping strategies. What are some practical ways that you can implement today, tomorrow, next week to help limit and combat stress and anxiety? Finally, we're going to create our own stress and anxiety plan. I always feel like if there is a plan, if you know your triggers, you know your symptomology, you know when you're going to get stressed about something, we can always plan ahead to make sure that you have the tools available to you to be able to combat those triggers and that stress and anxiety. And finally, I just have some resources for you, some things just that you're able to look at, just kind of give yourself your own little arsenal of coping mechanisms and coping strategies. So let's get into it. There we go. So when we think about stress and anxiety, oftentimes we think that they go hand in hand, which they do, because stress is the body's reaction to a threat, and anxiety is the body's reaction to that stress. Now, stress in itself is not necessarily bad. You might hear people say, oh, a little bit of stress is good, right? Have you ever heard that before? Like, just putting a little bit of pressure is okay. And the way that I like to think of that is like when we think of a lump of coal, right? We think of a lump of coal and we think of how the earth presses and presses and presses and puts stress and presses it and pressurizes it. And at the end of that process, you have a diamond, which we value. So sometimes that stress is good. We can also look at that when we think about cardio. When you're doing cardio, you're putting a little bit of stress onto your heart to make it stronger. But what happens when you put too much stress on it? Your body gives out. And so what we really like to think about this is a little bit of stress might be okay, but what happens when it's just too much for us? So this is really where we think about stress and anxiety going hand in hand with each other. Because as our body reacts to this threat, as our body starts to stress out about it, our mind reacts to that stress through anxiety. So just thinking about the symptomology of stress and anxiety, our bodies react to this. So not only is our mind sometimes like, all over the place if you're anxious, or your mind can excessively worry when you're anxious, your body will actually your body will actually react to stress as well. So in the chat, I'm actually going to put down one way or a few different ways that like our bodies can react. And if you, we're just going to take a couple of seconds. If you want to also put down, so heart racing could be a symptomology of having a lot of stress. Sometimes we think of lack of sleep, so insomnia.
Jane's saying for me, it's tense/sore muscles, headaches, and lower back aches.
Absolutely.
Amen to that, Jane.
Yeah, that's a big one too. For sure. So just another 5 seconds for anyone who wants to add into that symptomology for us. And this is just how our body reacts to this.
Also GI issues.
100%. Yes. So the reason why I like to think about the symptomology is because in order for us to understand our stress triggers, we have to understand how our body reacts to that. So how do we feel when we're stressed, right? So it is something that you have to think of, like for yourself. When this happens, how do I feel? How does my body respond to that? Because when our body responds to something, that's when we can figure out our triggers. So stress and anxiety triggers work, right? If you want to put into, we did symptomologies. If you want to take a few seconds to put in some of your stress and anxiety triggers, work can be a huge one. I'm thinking something that I've been really stressed out about, family dynamics, driving. Yes.
Thunderstorms and flooding. We actually had quite the thunderstorm performance last night. So
absolutely,
that's a real thing for us in Houston here, I think, since we have sort of a hurricane monsoon season.
And I think that actually goes into with like the different traumas that we have like faced in our lives can be triggering for us, right? So if we've had a trauma with storms or thunderstorms, even having like, you know, a small summer storm can be triggering for stress and anxiety for us. So even thinking about our past trauma responses or our past traumas that we've had, I think that's a huge one. I think like the global pandemic for me has given me a lot of social anxiety as we started to get back into the rhythm of things, I guess. So as we look at our symptomologies and as our triggers, I just want you to kind of like connect with yourself for we're going to take about 20 to 30 seconds for you to kind of think about just in your own time, just to think about your triggers and how your body reacts to those triggers, because we're going to be coming back to that. So I kind of want you to keep in mind what your triggers are and how your bodies respond. So I'm going to take 20 to 30 seconds and I want you to check in with yourself about that. You can write it down. If you have a piece of paper with you, you can keep it in your head, but we're going to give ourselves 20 to 30 seconds to think about one of our triggers and how our body responds to that. Okay, so as we've kind of have thought about our triggers, I'm just going to share out with you all what I wrote down. So one of my triggers is like if I have set up a time to meet with friends, um, that's a trigger for me currently because I have not been around people for so long. And so that really triggers my social anxiety. And the symptoms that I find is when I'm in the parking lot about to meet my friends, sometimes I feel my heart racing. I can't breathe. Um, I start to worry about just the social dynamics, like if people like me, even if I've known these people for a long time. So these can be, like um, worries that don't make any sense. Um, but I know for me, because I know how my body is responding to that, I know now that I know my trigger, right, which is I know that social environment and social engagements can be triggering for me. I know that my heart is racing and my breathing can be stunted or I can't breathe. Now I can look at the different coping mechanisms and to see which one would best help me. So, before we get into that, I am going to put up, I have a couple of quotes that I think that are really interesting in terms of stress and anxiety um, and creating plans. And I just kind of want us uh, to focus on those. So if you have, ideas about what this quote means to you, or if it makes sense to you, it's okay if it doesn't. I just want you to be honest. So nothing diminishes anxiety faster than action. Does this make sense to you? Why? Why not? So we're going to take about 30 seconds, 30 seconds to a minute to respond. So does it make sense? Why not, maybe? I think when I first read that, I was like, well, what happens if I can't take any action? Right? Like, what if I am so anxious or I'm so stressed out that I feel like no action can happen? So what happens in that instinct? But then I was thinking about it and it's like, well, is that action in the moment or are we planning? Right? Is that action more about the planning of it? So remember when I talked about now that we know our triggers, we know how our body responds to that. Now we can create a plan. Is that plan that action? So even when I feel that was our timer, even when I feel like this anxiety is getting the better of me, how can I use my plan to help get me out of that mindset? Okay. Ooh, one of my faves. Um, our anxiety does not come from thinking about the future, but from wanting to control it. So I think the really interesting thing about this is, are we trying to, we're talking about plans and we're thinking about plans. So our anxiety comes from thinking about the future, or does not come from thinking about the future, but from wanting to control it. So what do you think it means, or from wanting to control it? I think about like the worries that we have. Does our anxiety come from the fact that we want to control everything? Or that, we want to, that we're worrying so much about controlling those things? Is that part of our plan? Our plan of action is that we are using our coping skills to remind ourselves we can't really control everything. So Yeah, Jane, it's definitely a good quote to think of when you're thinking about anxiety. Um, and so I really love these quotes because it kind of gets us thinking a little bit more about like the importance of a plan of action, but really, and not only that, but also how we understand anxiety, stress and anxiety for us. So we have talked about symptomology, we've talked about triggers, we've had some interesting fodder about the underlinings of stress and anxiety for us, what it means to create a plan, what it means for us to worry and stress about things that we can't control. And so now, the thing that I think that we're all here for is our coping strategies. So these are not by any means, this is not a comprehensive list of coping strategies. These are just strategies that I have found that work well for me, or like that have worked well for myself, worked well for people that I've worked with in the past and past clients. But these are, and these are also things that are research based, which means that, you know, this isn't just something that we've pulled out of the ether. These are things that are research based. There are articles and articles about the efficacy of these practices. So one of the first ones that I really love is breath exercises. So I've given you a resource at the very end that goes through uh, a bunch of different types of breath exercises. This particular one is called belly breathing, but let's first go in a little bit about breath exercise. So when we feel super stressed out, or when we feel a lot of anxiety and our heart is racing really fast, um, or we can't seem to catch a break with our breathing might be increasing, or we feel like we can't breathe. Breathing exercises are really great to help create that homeostasis back into your body. Um, so this particular one, this is great to use when you are when you think you're about to have a panic attack, or when you know your triggers for panic attack. It's really great to use in the moment for anxiety and stress coping. So this particular one, like I said, is called belly breathing. And if you're wondering, well, why is it called belly breathing? I'm about to show you. So we're all going to kind of do it together. Um, you should be sitting or lying flat in a comfortable position. I can't see you all, so like if you're lying flat, go for it. I'm going to be sitting. Um, but you put one hand on your belly, right? Your belly, your diaphragm, right below your ribs, and the other hand on your chest. So you're going to take a deep breath in through your nose, and you're going to feel your belly expand, right? But your chest shouldn't move. So if you're feeling your chest like puff up, you don't want that. You just want your belly to expand, okay? And then you're going to breathe through your lips, kind of like you're whistling. It's okay to make a little bit of noise. Like you're going to feel the hand on your belly kind of go all the way in as you exhale. And you're going to use it to gently push on your belly to get all of that air out, okay? So we're going to do it a couple of times. So breathe in. Make sure your belly, you feel your belly. Start to exhale. You're going to whistle it out a little bit. Make sure you've gotten all that air out. Okay. So what I want you to focus on right now, we're just going to focus on that breath. We're going to do it. We're going to do it about 10 times. Okay. So let's try. Breathe in. Don't press out. Don't push up your chest. Just your belly should be expanding. And breathe out. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And if you start to get lightheaded, just slow down your breaths. So just be mindful to slow down. Just go at your own pace. Okay, last one. So now you can loosen up your arms because they've been in one position for a while. But I really want you to check in with how you're feeling. Focusing on that movement, focusing your mind on just doing that breath work, not only helps to calm your brain down, but it also helps create a rhythm for your body to get back to homeostasis if you find that you can't breathe or that you're on the verge of panicking. So it's really important to notice how you feel at the end of the exercise and how, how your body is handling that homeostasis, how it's back to handling, getting back to normal, getting back to that rhythm. So does anyone want to share in the chat how they felt after doing some belly breathing? Did it help relax? Did it help give you something to do? More relaxed? Okay. Perfect. Perfect. I love it. Belly breathing is it's just a really good thing. You can do this, use breathing exercises. Absolutely. Yes. Something other than the thoughts in your head. Absolutely, Rachel. Yes. It is definitely a good way to help bring your brain back. And again, like I said, breathing exercises are great in the moment to help you come back as you start to de-stress. Never mind that. Belly breathing is a great way to, it's a great exercise to use. There are multiple ways on how to use this exercise and different variations of it. So on to the next. Oh, this is my favorite. I'm very much into meditation. So meditation, and we're specifically looking at mindful meditation. There are a bunch of different types of meditation. I'm sure that you've heard of like the mantra meditation where we go doing that over and over as a way of like building, getting your body back to that attention. There's sensory meditation where you're just focusing on the sensing on the senses around you, but we're really focusing on mindful meditation. So one thing about mindful meditation is that it does use a lot of breathing exercises with it because it is about breath. But the biggest thing about mindful meditation is that it brings your thoughts and your body back to, if you find like you are everywhere, if you're super frazzled, it helps bring your mind, brings all of your thoughts back to your mind almost. And it's really about creating, helping your brain use its attention muscle. So bringing your attention back to your brain essentially. So meditation is especially great if you also have ADHD. It's great for stress and anxiety management. It is great for just being able to start your day off. And so I really think of like breathing exercises that we just did as like a great thing to do in the moment. Meditation is also a great thing to do in the moment with stressing, but it really is a routine, something that you build into your routine. Yes, Rachel Evans, I've listened to some guided meditations to help fall asleep at night. Yes. So meditation really does help your brain relax, um, and helps bring you back to the task at hand almost. Um, so a lot of people use meditation, they write it into their routine. I usually meditate in the morning. That's when I find it most beneficial for myself. We're going to try some meditation. And I really like to make sure that you're in a position where you are comfortable for meditation. So I know that we're all sitting, um, but you should be in a place that's calm and quiet to you. Sometimes I go out into my backyard on my porch to meditate. Sometimes I do it in my office. When I was working inside an actual office, I was able to go to like a corner, or um, sometimes I would go into like an area that people weren't using to meditate if I needed it. Um, so the first thing, you just want to make sure that you're really comfortable. And then when you start to meditate, when you start to do this practice, you want to make sure that you're setting a time limit for yourself so you're not over exerting yourself. So I tend to think that that doing a 30-minute meditation for your, just for your routine is, you are doing some great things. Some people can't do it for that long, and that's fine. Really, I always say to start off 2 to 3 minutes, and then start to go up, and usually no more than 10. Um, but it really is just depending on what you're comfortable with. So today we're going to start with a meditation of 3 minutes. I also use music in my meditation because that just helps me come back to myself, essentially. Um, what you really want to focus on for your meditation is your body and your breath. Okay. So um, you want to notice your body. So that means that you're going to be comfortable wherever. You want to make sure that you're comfortable in whatever position you're in, but you want to make sure that you're stable and in a position that you can stay in for a long time. So for some people, that's being cross-legged on the floor. Some people, that is like sitting in your chair. If you're in your office space, then you might just be taking your chair and just making sure that you're in a comfortable position, right? So it may be that your back is not like super straight. It could be that it's just like very relaxed. You're really going to be focusing on your breath. Okay. So as you start to meditate, you're going to be focused just your breathing, going in and out, in and out, in and out. And what I want you to focus on is, I want you to focus when your mind starts to wander. So if you are doing this in a place of stress and anxiety, right? And you start to do your breathing, breathing in and out, and then your mind starts to wander to that deadline you have in a couple of days, bring it back. Okay. If your mind starts to wander to, oh, I have to take my dog outside for a walk this afternoon, bring it back. If your mind starts to wander to, I've got to go grocery shopping, bring it back. I want you to notice when your mind has started to wander. It could be in a few seconds, a minute into your practice, but start to remember and notice when your brain is starting to wander and bring it back. Okay? Bring it back to you. You want to make sure that you're kind to your wandering mind. So, like, don't beat yourself up if you find yourself going every which way. I have ADHD. When I first started my practice, everything was banging around. You just got to gently bring it back. And remember, this is a muscle that we have to build up. And then finally, we close with kindness. We close with gratitude. And I'll show you how I do that. But the first thing we're going to do, make sure you're in a comfortable position in your chair, your desk area. And I'm going to put on some I'm going to put on some music. I'm going to put on a timer for us. And I want you just to focus on your breath. So I will give you some suggestions as that goes forward. But let's see. Okay, we're going to start with 3 minutes. We're going to sit comfortably. We're going to close our eyes. Put your hands either on your desk in front of you or on your person or to your side. So start breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. You're just focusing on that breath. You can feel the flow of the music, mimicking your breath. Just focused on breathing. If you find your mind wandering, bring it back. Found something wandering, I'm bringing it back to myself. Found something else wandering, I'm bringing it back. Focus on that breath work. Just focus on that. Focus on that. Bring it back. If you feel your mind wandering, start to bring it back. That's the timer. What I want you to start to do is coming back to yourself. Take out a few more breaths. And I want you to give grace to yourself. Give grace, bring back your body a little bit. Wiggle it around, coming back to your center. Back to your center. So again, I want you to take a little bit of time to think about how your body is reacting to that. And if you would like to share in the chat, you are absolutely encouraged to. But for me, I know that you all saw me. If you didn't have your eyes open, or if you had your eyes open, you could see me. Whenever I had a thought that was starting to distract me, I brought it back in. So I brought in, I have to walk my dog soon. Brought it back. For me, meditation really helps bring my attention back and helps my mind kind of calm down. So I know sometimes, yes, we feel energized. Yes. And it really helps prioritize as well for us. Sometimes when we're stressed out and we have a lot of like tasks to do, when we sit and meditate for a little bit, it helps our brain kind of um, take stock almost, but like it helps our brain relax a little bit, helps us get re-energized, and helps us understand really what our prioritizations should be. So perfect. And always remember to be kind to yourself with meditation. Afterwards, you can give gratitude. Um, so yes, I love the feeling energized. Absolutely. Okay. And so the next coping I have of emptying. Yes, yes, I need to learn. Um, Yusha, Yusha, I need to learn and keep doing this. I struggle with the concept of emptying my mind. Yes. And a lot of times our stress and anxiety can, you know, that triggering moment, it just piles everything onto us. And sometimes we just need to empty our mind, right? And it's always a good thing. What I have started to do, because sometimes um, to help me get back into a routine with that, I have put it into my calendar. And so I have, whether you have a phone calendar or you have a calendar, like your Outlook calendar, or if you have a paper calendar, sometimes just putting in, even if it's 3 minutes, just having that in every day and like setting an alarm for it can really, help you create that routine. And it's not easy. Like having that, I know that like meditation is like, yeah, the practice itself can be easy, but I think the hardest part of it is being able to put it into your routine. So I love that. Absolutely. Um, Yoga and exercise. So I have exercise because I'm not going to be doing exercises with you all. Sorry, I know I don't really want to do squats um, at this point in my day, but exercise is a great way, again, like meditation, to use your routine to help um, to use your things in your routine to help limit your stress and anxiety. So one thing that I have like started doing is like running or going to the gym. If you like to bicycle, biking is a great way of exercising. Another exercise that I really enjoy and that I've had a lot of success with students and clients is doing yoga. And so what we're going to be doing a little bit today is we're going to be doing 2 desk moves that you can do at your desk. So I know that in an office environment, sometimes it's really hard to move around. But exercise is a great way to bring in stress relief into your routine. But even if you only have a few minutes to do it at your desk, these are some poses that will actually really help. And again, these are only 2 poses. There's actually a whole routine in the resources page for you that you can go on and you can do yourself. So let's try it. So this is called the seated crescent move. So again, can be done at your desk. What you're going to do is you're going to lift up your arms, right? Lift up. I'm trying to think about kind of going into like almost like a shark fin, and you're going to move just your upper body, right? Just your upper body. And you're going to take 5 to 10 breaths here. And then you're going to come back to the middle. And you're going to do the same thing here and stretch. Perfect. So you feel that stretch all the way through your upper body. I am like loving this. Okay, wrist and finger stretches. So what I want you to do first is just do a couple of circles with your wrist. You can do them up high like this, or you can do them down at the bottom here, like so. And we're just going to take one arm out, so like this. And you're going to take your other hand, and you're just going to lightly press those fingers back like this, and just hold it for about 5 breaths. Perfect. You feel that stretch there. Good. And again, because we are focusing on the way our body and our breath work is going, very much like meditation, we are just focusing on what's happening now, the here and now. Do the same thing. Repeat that on the other side for a few breaths. Perfect. So these are just some exercises that you can do at your desk, but exercise is a great way of incorporating some stress relief into your daily practice. But I love what Bradford talked about in this fodder with meditation. I don't think about it as emptying my mind. It's more of a combination of intense focus on my breath and viewing the thoughts non-judgmentally and then letting them go. Yes. After a while, there are no more random thoughts. Absolutely. So it is about, these thoughts are coming into your mind, but we're bringing it back. We're not even following off on those tangents. We're just bringing back that thought back to our mind, just knowing that it's a thought we had and bring your attention back. I love this. Love the fodder. Awesome. Okay. So another coping mechanism we have is journaling. So this is something you can, again, bring into your daily routine. It can be linear, like, you can say what happened and like help yourself process it. You can focus on your senses of like how your body was feeling, how your, just like how your emotions are feeling, or just how you're feeling. You can use it as almost like storytelling about what happened, but it's really whatever helps you process your triggers, your symptoms, and stress and anxiety, because a lot of times what our body is reacting to is not just, stress is the body's reaction to threat, anxiety is the body's reaction to that stress. But oftentimes we are so much in a flight or fight response that we don't have the ability at that point to process what's happening. And which is why journaling is a great way of helping yourself process. And so here is just a short journaling exercise. Again, in my resources, there's a journaling prompt. Like there are a bunch of different prompts to help you keep up your journal if you're more so about the processing and less about like just keeping track of what's happening. So this is one that I've used with a lot of clients. Right now, I feel challenged by blank. However, I feel supported by blank. So what this does is that it helps us understand what our triggers are and like what our challenges are with our stress and anxiety, but it also allows us to look at the tools and the people we have around us that can support us. So it helps put into perspective the things, not only the things that are happening and the challenges that we have, but also the plans that we have and the things that we have to help us succeed and combat this. So journaling is really great if you are somebody who is able to process, if you're a verbalizer or someone who can process through writing. Journaling is a really great way to do that. Let's see. Oh, yes. I love that. Bradford. Yes. When things get rough, I keep a journal where I only write about 3 good things that happened that day. Yes. Absolutely. And I love the reprogramming, because essentially that's what we're doing. These coping mechanisms are just helping to reprogram our brain, and helping us to not view these symptoms, to help combat these symptoms and help reprogram our brain to, to not react as severely. So I love, yes, the grateful. I think there are a lot of prompts with my journal prompting that with the resource I gave that do talk about the gratitude, because and gratitude is actually something that you will find that goes across, like if you're doing a meditation practice at the end. I like to think a lot about gratitude, like, thank you for the powers that be that allow me to do this. And giving gratitude to the world, but also giving gratitude to yourself and giving yourself grace. I love that. Thank you so much, Bradford. Guys, I'm so happy. Thank you. This is awesome. Okay. And then finally, therapy. Sometimes things get too much for us. And sometimes no matter how much how many coping skills we have, sometimes we just need a little bit of extra help. And it's okay to seek help. In fact, it is very much encouraged. I have been actually in a place where I have been consistently being able to manage my stress and anxiety. And just recently, I've gotten to a point where in some of my triggers and some of my stressors, my coping strategies are no longer working as effectively. And that's when I know, okay, I need to go somewhere else, and I need some help, because even though I'm a counselor, I also need a counselor. So, I just want you to know it's okay. It's okay to get help. It's okay to go out to outside, entities for that, because we all just need a little help sometimes, and that's okay. So, really, what I want us to know from here is that we have a lot of these coping skills and these coping mechanisms in our arsenal. Um, but if it gets too big or too much, it's, 100% encouraged to get get help, to get some professional help, because I know I have needed it as well. So I'm so excited. The stress plan. So I know I have given, Rachel has put, yes, there we go. That is a document for a stress plan that I had kind of planned for you to take some time, about 5 minutes to go through, and to 5 to 10 minutes to go through and create your own stress plan. I have found that when we know our triggers, we know what triggers our stress and anxiety, and we can figure out the best when we know our symptomology, right? Like if I know that work and deadlines are triggering my stress, I can plan, well, maybe I can plan to get those things done before the deadline, but my stress is those work details, and my symptoms is that sometimes I have panic attacks and I can't breathe. Maybe my best coping skill is to do breath work or breathing exercises. So, what I really want us to focus on is, what are your triggers? What coping mechanism are you going to use when that trigger occurs? And how do you feel before, and how do you feel after? So for this, because we're this is kind of like a hypothetical for us, right? How do you feel before, and how do you hope you feel after? So, and I have two different, there are two, like, different, you can put down two different triggers and your coping skills, and how you feel before and how you hope to feel after. So you can use this, you can revisit it, but I really kind of want you to, we're going to take a little time, um, maybe 3 to 5 minutes if you want to do like the first one. But I want you to really think about how you hope that this coping mechanism will help you, and be intentional about it. Because at the end of the day, if you are like, well, I'm going to be using this coping mechanism, but it doesn't help, then that tells you that you can try something else. So I'll set my timer for about, I don't know, three minutes. If you just want to do that first row, and then we can open it up to questions or like, yeah. So I'm giving you 3 minutes, and then we'll come back. I'm not going to have you, I won't ask you to like share out or anything, but I just want you to have some time to be able to fill that out for yourself. So while you do that, put on some meditation music. Okay, you still have about 30 seconds left if you're still working of that 3 minute marker. And don't worry, I'm not gonna like hold you to anything. I'm not gonna like watch this or like, look at your personal thoughts. But if you want to in the chat, if you want to put down or to send out one coping strategy that you're gonna be using, that would be awesome. So there's my timer. So I'll put in the chat, meditate. Yes. Yes, hold on. Let's see. Yusha, for me, not getting something done, reaching somewhere by the time I was planning to trigger stress. Oh, and I have to talk about it to make it feel okay sometimes. Oh, I see. So it sounds like you're a bit of a verbal processor. Okay. Listening to upbeat music. Yes. Sometimes I wonder too, with verbal processing, because I see that your family, um, may not be like super into like hearing you talk about those, like almost like venting. I'm wondering if maybe doing some journaling just to help you process those out, just to make sure that that's not, music is a great way to help us. Music is good as we're like to help us kind of get back into that positive mindset. Um, but try journaling. I know that sounds silly for someone who doesn't know you to say, "Oh, try this, try that." But as a verbal processor myself, sometimes just journaling about like if I need something processed and I don't have anyone to vent it out to, writing it down sometimes can be very helpful. But I love that. Awesome. Again, it's one of those things. I love that. I love that vulnerability. Should really take time to do that. That's what Yusha said. And yes, sometimes it is just like we just have to put ourselves in that mindset. Sometimes we can just use it as like a way to vent. So I love it. I would definitely try it. Playlist of music, matching your emotional states. Using, again, I love that way of like what Bradford and Yusha have talked about of using music to cope or using music to help process. Love that. Love crocheting, that physical activity. Crocheting is a great way of like being in a meditative state. And it's funny because you all have like all of those things that you've listed are like meditative states of like processing through focusing on something. Like if you're focusing on music, if you're focusing on that flow or the lyrics, you're actually in a meditative state. Crocheting, doing the same actions over and over again is a meditative state. Personal. Yeah. It might be time to get back into that. Absolutely. I love the idea of that personal diary. Yeah. Sometimes life gets in the way, right? But love it. Ooh. Yeah. I'm wondering the visualization techniques, Shaheen, do you also do breath work with that? If you could add in visualization, because that's part of meditation as well. But yeah, awesome. I'm so wonderful. This is awesome. Thank you all so much for having me. I hope that this was just you were able to kind of understand your own triggers, understand the way your body reacts, and also have some new ways to help, new things to incorporate into your routine to help limit stress and anxiety.
Thank you so much, Katie, for coming out and for teaching us some ways of managing our stress, because I know right now it feels like stress can be an all-time high.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. And these are the resources I had talked about previously. These are all like very things that you can implement today, tomorrow, next week. Yeah.
Awesome. We will be definitely checking out these resources. And as always, I will be sending them out with the after email and posting them on the Life page as well. So you can access them there along with the recording of this presentation. I really felt my own stress level go down a little bit. So just makes my day. And I've got a lot of new methods of trying to balance things, which I think all of us are going to at least give it a shot. Um, Thank you so much for being with us, Katie, and for giving us some tools and taking time out of your day.
Thank you all.
And next week, we are going to be here again at 10 a.m. for our life program. And next week, we are discussing photography with reference librarian Bronwyn Sutherland and former portrait photographer. So bring your cameras, bring your phones, and let's get to snapping some awesome pics, guys. See you all next week at Life at 10 a.m.
Yep, we will see you next